Hey guys, Tony Maritato here. Welcome to the Knee Replacement Support Group. So in this video, I'm working on a new blog post related to how to ride the recumbent bike and foot and knee and hip positioning. So I thought, you know what, I'd come into the group, I'd share a video with you kind of explaining the different photos that you're going to see in the blog post. So in this setup, you can see this is not a patient. This is actually Jeremy, my physical therapist assistant. He was nice enough to be a model for me. But a couple of things that I want you guys to pay attention to. I know a lot of you are riding the recumbent bike, and I love that exercise. But foot placement. Let's talk about foot placement for a minute. Something that you should really pay attention to is we want, ideally, the ball of the foot on the pedal. Now, if you notice, there is no strap on this pedal. We have other recumbent bikes that have a strap. Personally, I prefer not to have a strap on the pedal because this way you can move your foot forward or back to kind of control how much flexion and extension is required through the knee. So when I've got somebody who's just 1 day to 1 week to 1 month post-op, after a total knee replacement, I'm probably going to try to avoid using a strap if possible because we want the ability to move the foot on the pedal. But you can see here, ideal positioning, the ball of the foot is on the pedal. That will allow the ankle free range of motion. Now let's see if we can go through this. So you can see here, we've got Jeremy's heel on the pedal. The reason why you would position like this is, let's say in the first week to 2 weeks, you're not near a full range of a full revolution on the bike, but you want to be able to get a little more motion. If you move your heel on the surgical leg to the pedal, and on the other side, which we can't see in this photo, he's got the ball of the foot. Essentially what's happening is the heel shortens the leg, the ball of the foot lengthens the leg, but it allows me to get better motion through the arc that you're using to increase the range of motion. So if I move the foot where the pedal is on the heel, I don't need as much knee flexion, so it's easier to start working on the bike with the pedal at the heel, but the goal is the pedal at the ball of the foot. Now, if we take a look at the alignment here, something that's really important is you look at where his knee is relative to his hip and to his heel. So he's pretty much in a nice straight alignment. That's what we're looking for. Typically prior to the knee replacement, patients will have either a genu varum or a genu valgus, varum and valgus. And basically what's happening is it's bowed out or it's knock knee, right? Everybody's going to be a little bit different. So what we want is when you have a nice new straight knee, we want to improve and kind of facilitate the straightness of that. So here you can see great alignment. In the next photo, I will often have my clients kind of exaggerate a wide knee position. And if you can imagine your line of sight, Jeremy looking down would be able to see the inside of his ankle. That's perfect because as the knee range of motion improves, we want to be able to have kind of that wide knee position. The other part to consider about this, when a person is walking normally, normal stride, you're about 4 to 6 inches from center of heel to center of heel horizontally, right? People don't walk on a wide base of support. People typically walk on a more narrow base of support. When you get on an exercise bike like this, a stat bike, a recumbent bike, a spin bike, a fan bike, what's going to happen is the pedals are going to be set much wider than your normal walking width. So we want to kind of compensate for that, and we do that by having the knees spread a little bit wider. In this photo, you can see down here at the bottom, Jeremy's foot is turned out, his heel is turned in. Quite often, because of the degenerative changes before the knee replacement, we see a situation like this where as you're going around on the bike, if you feel your heel catching on the pedal, it's because the foot's rotated out. This is not an ideal position. We want you to be able to sit with a nice straight foot, So I intentionally had Jeremy do this so that we can see what it looks like when he's doing it incorrectly. Now I think in the next photo, we correct it. There you go. And so if I just go back and forth, you can see heel in, heel out. This is what we want. We want a nice straight foot on the bike. And then we go out here. Again, another view. You can see the feet are straight. The knees are a little bit wide. That's a perfect scenario. Now, since we're here, if you guys want to keep watching, in this, we're talking about doing a hydraulic or a resisted leg press. Leg press is a great exercise. It's getting closer to function. Nothing is going to replace sit to stands and squats, but this gives us some variety and it gives us a chance to work on some different things. So if you are using a version of a leg press at physical therapy or when you return to the gym, a couple things that we learned from the recumbent bike also apply here. If you look at the inside of Jeremy's ankle on the right relative to his knee, you can see how he has that wide knee position. That's what we're shooting for. As my knee flexes and my feet come closer to my body, this would be the same as me sitting down, but basically as the sled moves back toward me, we want those knees to go out just a little bit. We want the feet to stay nice and straight, and you should be able to see the inside of your ankle. From another perspective, now this is what it would look like if you're allowing the knees to collapse in. That would not be an optimal position. And what's interesting, I'm going to go back a second. So from here to here, quite often I'll have patients tell me, well, I'm flat-footed, my arch collapsed, and multiple things about the arch, the foot, the ankle. In reality, if we improve the alignment of the knee and the hip, we also improve the alignment of the foot, the arch, the ankle, because you can't separate one from the other. Everything is intimately connected. So your foot structure, your ankle structure, your arch will improve now that you have a brand new knee if you're working on the alignment of the knee and the hip. So you just want to be aware that if your knees are collapsed in, if you cannot visually see the inside of your ankle, you have to work on that alignment a little bit. And that's where your therapist will come into play. Here's another situation where I wouldn't want my client. He's got a great wide knee position here, but then he's also he's rotated through the tibia, which I would want the feet to be straight and the knees to be a little bit wide. We exaggerate things in therapy just so that when you're out in the real world, you don't have to think about it. You just do it. A couple little tricks that we had here. If I had a little digital marker, which I don't, but you can see at the knee, he's pretty much at a pretty close to 90 degrees. And what it is he's got the top half of his foot completely off the plate. Now in the next one, you can see that we've gone all the way to the bottom of the plate, and this is a very, well past 90 degrees range of motion through the knee flexion. So depending on your ability, even earlier in the rehab process, now I like hydraulic resistance. There's no free weights attached to this. Free weights are great. Body weight is great. I'm not saying anything negative about those. But a hydraulic resistance device like this allows you to control the intensity of the resistance. The faster the movement, the higher the resistance, the higher the load. But I just wanted you guys to see that between here at about 90 degrees in the same plate position, we can go well past probably 120 at that point. So his non-surgical knee on the far side, in this case the left, is really what's controlling the motion. The left is allowing the plate to stretch the right. Does that make sense? The left, the non-surgical, is allowing the plate to stretch the right, which we're assuming is the surgical in this scenario. So back to the recumbent bike. A couple exercises that people don't often think about using on the recumbent bike. This is a great knee extension calf stretch position. So he's been riding the bike, he's been turning the pedals, and then at about the 2 to 3 minute mark after he's warmed up the knee, he stops in this position. The ball of the foot is on the pedal. The heel is dropped down, and he's focused on terminal knee extension, full knee extension, with a calf stretch. Now you're going to feel that stretch all the way up into the back of the knee, but this is a great way to kind of mix the benefit of the endurance, the warm up, get the bike going, and then stretch. Get the bike going a little more and then stretch. One of my favorite ways to do something like this is a 3-minute cycle, low to moderate intensity, and then about a 60-second stretch. So a long duration, lower intensity. Then you cycle again, you stretch again. We do 2 or 3 rounds. That puts you at about 8 to 12 minutes. That's awesome, and then we get up and we go do some functional activity. In this scenario, what you can see is he's back to the heel on the pedal, but what's going to happen is he's going to work on a scooping motion. So as he's coming around, what he actually does is he thinks of pointing the toes down and pulling the pedal back. That starts to create a stretch through the top of the shin, through the top of the ankle. Everybody in the world, and I'm sure you guys have been doing the calf stretch, heel hanging off a step or standing on a wedge. We stretch the back of the ankle, the back of the calf muscle, the knee constantly. We rarely focus on stretching the top of the ankle. And so that's an important motion that is often overlooked. So I like to do kind of a combination. Maybe you do the calf stretch for a while, then you do what we call going into plantar flexed position, stretching the dorsiflexors, the top of the leg. And then in the next picture here, once again, we've got the toe at the pedal. He's letting his his heel drop down to get a calf stretch. Now in this position, this is different than actually this position. So this position, the knee is straight and the heel is depressed. So we're getting a gastroc, which is the superficial calf muscle stretch. But when we go to this position, the knee is bent and the heel is depressed. This is actually a stretch for a muscle called the soleus. So the soleus is a big, broad, deep muscle. It's actually below the gastrocnemius. We generally say calf muscle to include everything behind the lower leg, but there are 2 primary muscles, the soleus and the gastroc. The soleus does not cross the knee joint. It simply crosses the ankle. So in this position, he's not stretching the gastroc, he's only stretching the soleus. Just another way to work on knee flexion, ankle mobility, to improve overall function. Here, once again, we're stretching the top of the ankle. We're stretching the muscles that run along the shin bone. Many of you have reached out to me and said, Tony, I've got all of this pain along the front side of my shin. What can I do for it? Something like this is a great way to work on those muscles. So I just want you to see, and then of course, once he finishes cycling, he gets off the bike, he puts his left foot up on that little wheel, and he's just doing a regular calf stretch again. It could be done on a wedge, it could be done on a block, it could be done on a step, it could be done on that little knob that supports the front of the bike. And so I'm a big proponent of kind of a longer duration, lower intensity stretch. In this case, he's doing both. Right and left ankles. He's got one foot on either side of the bike. He's going to sustain that for about 60 seconds. My ideal, I explain to my patients, we need to stretch longer than 10 seconds. More than 60 seconds probably doesn't give us that much more benefit. In reality, when we're looking at a stretch like this, what we're doing is, I would make the argument we're not really lengthening, creating length in the connective tissue. What we're doing is we're desensitizing some of those muscles and tendons and ligaments and connective tissue, the fascia that runs around the muscle. Because when you first go into this stretch, you feel an immediate response. That's the muscle spindle trying to protect so that the muscle doesn't tear. You almost feel a pain response. It's a stretch. But then after the first 7 to 10 seconds, that response calms down, and then you do actually gain range of motion. But I would say it's not because of the mechanical lengthening. It's because you've reduced the sensation of pain and fear and guarding, and your brain and nervous system says, okay, nothing ripped, we can relax a little bit, and that's where you get your extra range of motion. And so this is a great one. There's lots and lots of different ways to do this stuff, guys. My job, my goal, my vision for this whole YouTube channel is to expand the opportunities for you guys, show you guys what other clinicians are doing. I'm sure you have an amazing team. I'm sure you have an amazing therapist, but it's always great, even within my clinic and my own team, Jeremy is going to treat a patient different than I'm going to treat a patient, different than Barb, different than Jenna, different than the rest of the people on the clinical team. We're all different. I just want to share some new ideas with you guys, especially those of you who are stuck at home because of the current situation. So I hope this video was useful. I hope you gained some knowledge, some benefit. If nothing else, I hope you were just like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to try that the next time. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for supporting the channel. The membership subscriber base continues to grow, and it's only because you guys are willing to hit that subscribe button, support the channel, and let the YouTube algorithm know, hey, this guy's putting out some useful content. As always, I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.